Hey everyone, my name is Justin. Welcome to the channel where I sometimes take a look at games, classic and modern, and kind of give our thoughts on how they appeal to different generations.
Today we are continuing our journey through the finalists of Fantasies as I work my way up to Final Fantasy III. Originally released in 1990, Final Fantasy III was re-released as a part of the Pixel remasters, so it's time to find out if this classic holds up or if it should have remained a relic of the past.
The game opens with the four Onion Knights off playing together when an earthquake causes them to fall underground. They travel to a dungeon and find themselves with the Wind Crystal, which explains that darkness is coming and the light within them is needed to help starve off the impending destruction. Then they are gifted with some shiny new classes and head off to adventure. The story jumps around a lot, and honestly, for me, this is one of the weaker elements of the game, as the antagonists kind of pop up out of nowhere or aren't really mentioned until really late in the game. It's straightforward, perhaps overly so for my liking, but it's serviceable, I suppose.
I disagree. I thought the story was cool. Then again, it was just weird to walk around listening to random little fairies. I had a similar issue with the first two games, where we just seemed to be talking to, listening to, or helping random people for seemingly little reason other than because I'm a hero. I like the story. I just wish the cloud of darkness and all that stuff could have been sprinkled in throughout the game instead of being pulled out of nowhere at the end. It felt like it was completely random and out of left field for me.
Fair point, son. Spoiler though, it gets much better going forward in the franchise.
Final Fantasy III, like Final Fantasy I, is a story of four self-insert characters. We get to name them, steer their growth in different jobs and spells, and build the team however we want. At the start, the characters are Onion Knights, and they look like kids and seem to act like kids. And then they encounter the Wind Crystal, get a job, and bang! They're adults. This seemed kind of weird to me, as it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, suddenly getting a job makes you grow up real fast. I like the characters, though I have to be honest, this being the last self-insert type game in the franchise makes me happy. They can be fun, but I like a cast with a bit more backstory and character.
I like the self-insert characters though. You can customize their class, headcanon their backstory, and kind of write your own little stories about them. So when I name a character after my brother, and he ends up being totally useless in a boss fight, it's like, yeah, that checks out.
So, does that explain why the character I named after you had all those skill problems?
And we're done here.
Final Fantasy III has almost the exact same style as its predecessors. It's a charming pixel art with more detail than the previous games, but not as much as ones to come. I really enjoy all the different classes and how they have different stances when preparing an ability or spell. The NPCs have varied designs that really stand out. While this isn't my favorite Final Fantasy game graphically speaking, it is a nice step forward over those that came before.
That's good. It'll be nice to get something new. One thing I've noticed though as a trend is how spell effects change. Just like the other games, Faraja will be way different than Fire. It really does a good job of showing how your character's powers grow. I agree with you on the stances, but I think it's also cool how AoE abilities will look different. The Black Belt's kick, the ninja's throw ability, they all have different animations. It really shows how the people that developed the game grew with each game. With the music, I thought it was cool. One thing that really stood out was the airship themes. They go from being excited like, whoa, I'm on an airship. But with the Invincible, it has a big bombastic war music. Also, it's really cool that the Invincible will give you air support in combat. Not music related, but still really cool.
The music was good. I felt the varied soundtracks were a big step up from Final Fantasy II. That said, and this may be the old man in me, music was just kind of fine. While it was more varied than Final Fantasy II, nothing really jumped out at me as a high or a low, which for a game this old, I guess is about as high of an endorsement as you can get. Final Fantasy III is very similar to the older games, and that's a classic turn-based RPG. You get into random battles, select your actions, and the turns play out. With some of the major dungeons, you'll run into an elemental crystal that will grant you different jobs. This is the first Final Fantasy game that had the job system as we know and love it now. You start off as lowly Onion Knights, and you get access to the Warrior, Black, White, and Red Mages, Thief, and Monk. But as you move further into the game, you get access to a host of different classes. Some neat, some nigh useless, and others highly situational. The good thing is, almost any of them can work, and it's just that, in my opinion, some work far better than others.
This was my first experience with a job system, and I really liked it. It was really fun just experimenting with the classes and team setups to see what works, what classes you like, and which ones are pretty flippin' useless. I'm looking at you, Ranger. The hard part is you invest a lot of the time in one job, but when you move to a new job they start at level 1, so you lose a lot of hard work.
All fair points. I think my biggest negative to the game, though, is the stupid dungeons that require you to be Mini or in Toad to get around. It's a drain on resources, and it's more annoying than engaging. At least with the Pixel Remaster, we can turn off encounters if we don't need the experience, so we can just kind of speed through those sections as it really drags the game down. This is the third game in our journey through Final Fantasy, and we're rapidly approaching the "it gets good" part, if you ask most of the fanbase. While I think that's a bit harsh, I do think there's some truth to it. Final Fantasy III is a fine game. It's not a very long game, there's no padding, and it really requires almost no grinding. Now, we used the boost and completed the game in just shy of 9 hours with no difficulty. Personally, I'd like more from it, but for a game that's 34 years old, it's fine. For me, this is a 6 out of 10. It's short, has some good moments, and introduces elements that would play a much bigger role in the franchise going forward. If you're bored on a weekend and have a day to kill, there's far worse games you can play. Unfortunately, there's also far better.
Jeez, isn't that a bit harsh? I guess I liked it a bit more. I'm gonna go a 6.75. I kind of have to agree with you with all those points, but I think it's more than fine. Like, I could really see myself playing this again, so having that replayability is a big plus for me. I agree it's not perfect. For example, I didn't like how in the other games your airship can cross mountains, but here, nope. Even the Invincible, which is supposed to fix that, can still only bunny hop, and it's painfully slow. But that said, the fun classes and the quirky side characters made it up for me, so I'm gonna go a bit higher than you, Dad. So those are our thoughts on Final Fantasy III. Did you get lost in the cloud of darkness? Or did the light of the crystals guide your way? Whatever your thoughts, comment below and let us know. And as always, if you like our work, please support us with a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.